Hello and welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewsium.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley. Before we get into anything, my daughter has a friend over and I was like, okay, I'm going to go record. And she's like, oh yeah, you have a podcast. What's it about? And Mila goes, it's just about this like famous girl she likes. It's like, wow.
But would her friend know who that is?
I don't know. I wasn't in the room anymore and I was busy, so I didn't care. I just thought it was interesting.
This famous girl that she likes.
I mean, it's true.
I love how like nonchalant that is. Your 14-year-old?
Yeah, 14 now.
Holy shit.
I know. When we started this podcast, she wasn't even a teenager yet. That's pretty weird.
Whoa. That is weird.
I know. All right, let's get down to business.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to our two newest Patreon members,
Woo!
Julie and our wonderful friend Tess. Hi,
Yay!
guys, and thank you.
Thank you, Julie and Tess. So happy to have you. We will have some fun things for you, I promise. And if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
Yeah. $1 a month, guys. That's nothing.
It's nothing. Gotta break down to how many cents that is per day. It's like 3 cents. Okay, so what do you got for us?
Okay, I kind of put this under follow-ups because we had our ranking of so we ranked Drew's performances, like our favorites of Drew's performances once. Anyway, Entertainment Weekly just came out with a ranking of her 17 best movies and TV shows. I'm not sure why 17. It's like such an arbitrary number.
It is.
And this wasn't for performances, from what I could tell. It was just the movies or TV shows themselves.
Yeah.
So I shared it on our Drewsium Instagram at Drewsium, and it was pretty fun to see a lot of reactions and responses from people who were like, "What is this movie? What is this movie? Or this should have been higher." So it was kind of fun. We'll definitely share it. I'm curious, like, what were your thoughts on this list?
When I went over it, I was like, this is too hard for me. Like, even just us doing what we did, like, it was too hard. But I didn't notice the glaring things that were missing. I did notice that, like, some of our favorites are towards the top. Like, I wasn't surprised that, like, Ever After. I mean, I kind of was a little bit surprised that Ever After's up there, even though we love it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was surprised as I was scrolling, and I'm like, okay, obviously E.T., right? And I'm like, yeah, E.T.'s number 2. What the heck is number 1? Like, I could not think of what it was going to be. And then it was Grey Gardens. And I was like, oh, okay. But like, funny how I just totally forgot about that. It didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, because isn't there something weird about like how maybe it's about like when things came out.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
It's almost like what we think as like our favorite things also have to do with our formative nature of our dreamdom. And Grey Gardens being on there, it's like we're like, yeah, of course, but we already knew she was great by then. You know, it's like
yeah. I was surprised to see Firestarter and Irreconcilable Differences, even though they were the like bottom 2. I was sort of like, I feel like Mad Love or Boys on the Side both of those are better than those films.
It's interesting for within 17 movies to not have Mad Love at least make an appearance. It's surprising. Yeah. And you made a good point that music and lyrics seems way too high.
Yeah.
I agreed. That's not a favorite of ours.
And I don't think it's a better movie than Whip It or Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Like, objectively, I just don't think anybody would agree with that personally.
I guess I didn't look at like the research. Whose ranking was this, you know?
Yeah, I think it was just one journalist.
Okay.
Anyway.
It's fun to think about, and I'm glad that we had some fun in our social media with it. So that's great.
Yeah, we sure did. Thanks everybody for contributing and chiming in. I was like, whoa, we got so much more of a response than I expected. It's fun to see all those opinions.
Yes. All right. What else you got?
This is sort of a follow-up as well about Drew's arm tattoo with the sardines. But on the Drew Barrymore show on Drew's News, they were doing a story about people who name their homes. And Ross, I guess, has like a fancy one for his house. And so Drew realized that she had something that she could call her home. And I thought we could play the audio.
Welcome to Chez Sardines. It is the hottest club in town. It's so exclusive. It only has 3 members.
Oh.
It is open tonight.
This is what you do to the girls?
Yeah, this is my routine with the girls.
Oh, cute.
Chez Sardine.
Chez Sardine.
Chez Sardine. And of course, this ties back to Drew's tattoo because she got the 3 sardines on her arm in honor of her and her daughters being snuggled up in bed together.
Yes,
Super cute.
super cute. I love it. It's so Drew in the perfect way.
Yep. This is super random and it doesn't really fall under any category, but I wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
So, you know, obviously that The Adventures of Con Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, this TV movie that Drew did in 1985 is like the most obscure thing she's ever done, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's seen it. You can't find it anywhere. It's just one of those weird sort of lost in time things. It was never released on video.
Yeah.
So anyway, frequent writing in-person Christian, a while ago, he found half of it on, I think, the Internet Archive.
Oh.
So it had apparently like reran in 93 or 94 and somebody had taped it then, which I love because it has all the commercials and I remember a lot of them.
Oh my God, that's cool.
But yeah, so it's just the first half and it's literally half an hour. So I guess the entire thing is only an hour with commercials. So it's really short.
Okay.
So I kind of had forgotten about it. He had sent it to us and I saved it in our drive. And then somebody out of the blue left a comment on one of our episode pages asking about it and saying like they could never find it.
Oh.
And so anyway, it took me down this rabbit hole and I was like, oh my God, I have to watch this thing. It's not great quality, but it's there. It's viewable. And wow, is it bad?
Oh my God.
It's bad.
Do you have like one printed photo from it or something?
I have a couple. I have quite a few press photos. Yeah.
Okay.
The press photos are out there.
Yeah, but that's so cool.
You need to watch it. It's like painful. It's like a lot of this stuff from the 80s where I'm just like, why? What was wrong with people? It's just rough. I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of want you to watch it and then we'll talk about it in another episode. Let's do that.
Sounds good. Is it possible for us to link on the episode page?
Yeah, we could. The first half hour of this video is like Winnie the Pooh. So you have to go, you have to scroll halfway through.
Oh, okay.
A little heads up.
Okay, so since the show's back, we've got to hear all about the things that Drew has passion for. Can you tell me what Drew loved this past week?
I love love.
Okay. This week, Drew loves a periodical.
Oh, yeah.
Martha Stewart, old news. We know that. Comedy, obviously. Being with her friends, again.
Obviously.
The Two Girls Club. And I'm a member of that too, being a mom of 2 girls. So high five,
right.
Drew. Cher exactly as she is.
That's great.
And I told you when I was watching them talk about Cher, Drew was trying to do an impression of her and saying she couldn't do it. And I was dying because she impersonates her at the beginning of SNL in 1999.
Yes. It's my own design.
Thank you. I was hoping you would do that. And then lastly, we got some food things. Drew loves butter, cherry, and peach.
Oh, me too.
Oh, yeah. Good combos.
All those together?
Ooh, why not?
Melted into like a crumble?
A pie? Yes, a crumble.
We always come back to food.
Always.
You know, you might have heard us complain a little bit about how many recipes there were in Drew Magazine, but I think we actually secretly are completely on board for that.
Good point. Good point.
All right. So what did you pull for this week in Drew history?
All right, let's go to November 18th. Hey, that's Jolina's birthday. In the year 2000. All right. So this is funny because this kind of came up recently because we had that Pauly Shore doing like a weird fake proposal to Drew on her show. So I got flashbacks to this one. So when I saw that this is like this week, I'm like, we got to talk about it.
Totally.
So let's talk about Tom Green hosting Saturday Night Live and Drew, of course, being in attendance. And he pulled her on stage and said that they were going to get married at the end of the show, live right there. Do you remember watching this?
Old prankster.
Oh
Very
God.
well.
Yeah.
I also am still a little bit confused if it was like actually supposed to happen because they have like, they show her in a dress. They show her friends there, her actual friends.
Yeah. So we had Nancy Javonin and Gillian Dempsey now.
Yep.
They were there with Drew in the audience. And then they're backstage with Molly Shannon, all in bridesmaids dresses. And that, whatever that gown is that Drew's wearing, oh my God. Sorry, but it's ugly.
It's old fashioned. I think it's kind of cute. But what I remember is that on, I guess the Grapevine. Yeah, it had to be the Grapevine. We like, people were like, I don't understand. Was it a joke?
I think we were chiming in like live while people were watching it. Like, I remember it being like, oh my gosh, they just showed her backstage. Like, is this really happening? Like, what's going on? My takeaway these days is it was never going to be real, but they really played it up like throughout the show, making it seem like it was going to happen. And then, so anybody who isn't familiar, at the very end, Tom's alone on stage, Drew never comes, and it just credits roll while he's like yelling her name.
I bet it was probably just like Tom's idea. They thought it was hilarious.
For sure.
When did they actually get married?
So it would have been like 8 months later.
Okay. But yes, I remember that. Classic. I love how 2000 her outfit is, by the way.
Oh, I totally had a top that I'm like, oh, it must have been inspired by this. Like,
yeah, not the ugly dress.
So similar. No, not the ugly dress, the striped top.
Yeah, but it's like striped top, low, like low rise pants.
Actually, I'm almost like, are those the same black pants she wore to the Titan AE premiere a few months before, where her thong straps were showing? And she's got that like super skinny belt. It's like a chain.
Yeah. Not really a functional belt.
Oh, but she looks so pretty, and
she does look really pretty.
Crazy how young she is. This little baby.
She's got her dark brown hair. Anyway, that was hilarious. That was a good pull. And yeah, it's funny that it just came up. What's new with Drew this week?
I didn't get a chance to do a lot of watching on the show. I'm a little behind this week, so sorry, we'll catch up next week. But I thought this was cool. So Tallulah Willis, who is Bruce Willis and Demi Moore's daughter, she came on the show. I guess it was her first interview ever. Oh. And they had a really great conversation talking about rehab and like having your story about that broken without your consent. I guess a nurse, when Tallulah was in rehab, broke the story.
Oh.
Yeah. They also both talked about how like sharing it afterward to help others. And then sort of like how they both know that they have a privileged life, but that doesn't like, does that mean you can't complain, and like dealing with that?
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. Definitely worth watching. She was a lovely person. I was really impressed by her. Cool. And then I thought this was just kind of a fun random. Drew shared a term called paranoia that I guess her dad coined about Barrymore / paranoia. So like, I think there's a guy up in the tree watching me. That's crazy. It can't be. Oh no, there actually is like a paparazzi guy in the tree. That was Drew's example.
Paranoia.
I know, I've never heard her say that, so I just was
Me
like, oh, we have to mention that.
I love that her dad coined that. I feel like every time we hear some little tidbit of something her dad said, like he clearly was just like spouting just hilarious, crazy stuff all the time.
Yeah, he definitely had a way with words.
Yeah, totally.
Kick that bag, man.
Yeah. All right. What else do you got for this week?
And then just the other night, Drew appeared at a 10-year anniversary for Garnier's micellar makeup remover that they have, that she's been praising for years and years and years, way before she was officially like associated with them.
Yeah.
It looked like maybe they did some kind of a panel. It looked like they were filming like a bunch of segments. I don't think it was for her show, but it was at the CBS Broadcast Center. It's a little confusing. I'm not sure what it was.
Okay.
She also did the makeup removal of a drag queen called Blue Hydrangea. So it just looked really fun. She looked beautiful, and hopefully we know more soon. Hopefully we get to see like footage of this.
Yeah, she did look really cute.
Howdy, Droobies.
We want to tell you about our sponsor, Positive Medium. We've actually been clients of theirs for at least 10 years, and they take care of all of our website needs for thedruseum.com.
They offer custom web design and professional coding, search engine optimization, marketing, and hosting. So we've been hosted by them, but we've also been able to take advantage of a lot of their expertise in these other areas as well.
Absolutely. So customer service is the biggest draw for us with this company. They have saved our site literally from obliteration quite a few times. But then they also help us with minor issues in just like literally a matter of minutes. So if we have like a coding question or just like something on the back end we can't figure out, we reach out to them and we get an answer back and the issue is solved within moments.
We're so excited that Positive Medium is allowing us to offer our listeners 25% off managed WordPress hosting plans using our promo code DREW, D-R-E-W, of course. And if you want to take advantage of this, visit positivemedium.com. We really, really vouch for these people. They've been so great to us and will continue to be great to us. I can only imagine.
I mean, they're great by offering this to our listeners. So take advantage. Again, it's promo code DREW, of course.
Are we ready to get into this weekly topic?
Yeah, let's do it. Magazine time. We haven't done this in a while because we also love a periodical or two.
Yes, we do. Or two, or many, many more. Okay, so we are going to do 2 magazines today. Woo-hoo.
First time ever.
Yes. We're going to do 2 magazines that are both from 2005, both from the United Kingdom, both large format, both have different photographer duos or the same one?
Different photographer duos. Both were taken by duos of photographers.
Which
Random.
is so cool.
Yeah.
Both are like, is it all full pages in each issue? So cool. When we say full pages, we mean the photograph takes up the whole page, which is like
these are big magazines.
Yes. And they both have really unique and rad makeup looks done by Gucci Westman.
Aha. So Gucci is a longtime friend of Drew's. They've worked together a lot. And we were lucky enough to get a couple quotes from her to include in this episode that she provided to us exclusively.
Yay. So cool. Gucci told us, every time I worked with Drew, she was always game to go for it. It was always so fun to work with her.
Yeah.
Sounds just like what a lot of people say about her.
That's so true.
I love that. And we also wanted to make sure we plugged Gucci's beauty line, Westman Atelier, and make sure you check her out on Instagram at Gucci Westman. That's how we got a hold of her. So thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have a couple more quotes from her as we go along, more specific to each shoot.
Yes, we will. So cool.
Yeah. So let's start with another magazine, which is the Spring Summer 2005 issue. The interview was done by Alex Brown, and the photography is by the duo Inez van Lamsweerde
and Vanud Mataden. They're both very unique names.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sure we butchered them.
I had to just step in here and help you out a little bit.
I think sometimes they just go by Inez and Vanud.
The hair was done by Kevin Ryan, who also worked with Drew on the Versus magazine from 2009 with Ellen von Unworth for the Whip It kind of themed shoot, which
one of my faves.
Yes. The makeup, Gucci Westman, as mentioned. Styling was done by Alistair Mackey. Ooh, and I love the little tidbit you pulled here. So the nails were done by Deborah Littman, who also worked with Drew on Mirabella in 1995.
Yeah. And I think something else that we don't have at our records, because I noticed I was following her on Instagram already under our account.
Oh, weird.
And so maybe something more recent that she did with her. So that's really fun.
I like how she's Littman, but she does nails.
Should be Nail Woman. Good one. Okay, so Gucci's exclusive quote to us about this shoot was, I was inspired by the Charlie's Angels era with the metallic eye, a lot of blush, top lip gloss color, more polished, done, and lush. Love that.
Absolutely.
And it really does have that kind of like metallic glossy vibe to it, the makeup in a lot of these shots.
Yeah, it does. Do we want to get into them a little bit and kind of try to describe these beautiful, beautiful pictures?
Yeah. So both of these have quite a bit. I don't know that we could sit here and go beat by beat on every single one of them.
Yeah. I guess let's just describe the cover a little bit. So that description, that kind of like metallic eye, blush, taupe lip gloss, that's like, I feel like she's pretty much describing the cover there.
Yeah. And maybe like the last photo too.
Yep. And then there is, okay, my favorite one, even though there are those other ones.
I know what it is.
There's one photo of the back of Drew's head.
Yeah. Why is it so beautiful and special, that picture? I love it too.
I don't know. And I think I've told you that I have a friend who's an artist, Michelle Blade, and she at one point had a painting that she did of this picture in an exhibit.
Oh, yeah.
And I've since asked her, like, do you still have that? Like, I would totally love to have it. And she can't find it.
Oh, no.
But it was so neat to be like, oh, I know that picture. And she was just like, oh, yeah, I just loved it. I just pulled it out of a magazine and painted it. I was like, that's so cool.
That's such a cool coincidence.
Yeah, I know. And those three in the white dress, there's something so cool about them.
I know. It's like very vintagey looking, like old vintagey.
Yeah, like almost like turn of the century in a weird way, or like Victorian.
Yep. And like love that she's just like screaming at the sky. Amazing.
Yeah, they're so good. The pictures in this have like a different feeling from picture to picture in a really cool way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We have finally gotten our scans of these up on our website. Somehow we lost all of our 2005 magazine files. Just that year. Don't know why. Don't know where they went. I'm talking about our digital versions.
Yep.
And these are, like we said, very oversized and difficult to scan, but we finally got around to it. So you can go on either the episode page or on the drewseum.com/2005mags and see all of these beautiful photos.
Yes. And I would highly recommend it. They're gorgeous.
Yes. So interestingly enough, the cover image and then one of the inside photos were used in a Lancome campaign that was actually tied in with Gucci that Drew started. And this was in the second set of ads that were released in fall 2005. So they recycled those photos.
Yes, they did. And I'm sure I remembered that at the time, but looking at it again, they've changed them up just enough.
Yeah.
That they're unrecognizable.
Like you wouldn't know unless you knew.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen these beautiful outtakes.
Oh my gosh, they're stunning.
They're so stunning. Are they like any of the other ones that were printed? Maybe like that one that's her face close up across 2 pages.
Yeah, the very last picture, she's in the same striped top.
Okay, got it. Those are the only outtakes we have.
Yep. Sadly, only 2. But again, we will share those on the episode page. They're gorgeous. You have to check them out.
Yes, they are.
She looks a lot blonder in those than the other ones.
Yeah, she does, weirdly. Huh. I'm going to jump in and summarize the article for us a little bit.
Let's do it.
So even though it was a bit short, it's pretty cool. So in the article by Alex Brown, it first mentions her age, which I realized, like, I feel like so many magazines like start by talking about her age.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing.
Probably because her age is always sort of off. Like it always feels confusing. Like she either feels too old or too young for that age.
That's a good point. Yeah, usually they're saying like, here are the achievements. Can you believe it? So she was 30 years old at the time, which oddly enough, in retrospect, like it feels young, of course.
Very.
At the time, the Confederacy of Dunces was still in the works.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. I forgot about that. Wasn't Will Ferrell going to be in that with her?
I don't really remember many details about it.
That's what I remember.
I just remember it was floating around forever. And then it goes on for a while about quantum physics, which I found kind of funny. Drew says she has her pom-poms on right now about quantum physics.
That's a good Drewism.
Yeah, I know. It's cute. She says her boyfriend, who they don't name, but at the time it was Fab, and his father are well-versed in quantum physics, which got her interested in it. She saw the movie What the Bleep Do We Know and loved it. And I liked this quote she said about it. There was a lot of like kind of fun conversation around this, but she said, there's something very empowering about the idea that you are the conductor of your own destiny.
Oh, that's so Drew, huh?
Yeah. And I also was like, yes, I feel like that's like a theme of my life right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that crazy sex cult NXIVM that had like a bunch of people?
A little bit. Okay. What about it?
The director of What the Bleep Do We Know was really involved with it. And one of the ones who like turned and got a bunch of people out and like took it down.
Whoa.
There's a really interesting documentary on HBO called The Vow about it. And that's why I know.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway, I just had to mention that.
Just a little side note. in the article, they also talk about best place to start, though they don't name it. They just say, when you were working on your documentary, and if you don't know, it's her documentary when she's kind of like learning about politics and voting, because she'd always felt like she felt stupid whenever that conversation came up. This is kind of an interesting thing because she's like, she wanted to talk about politics in a way that people could understand since she was also learning. So she kind of wanted to be honest about that. She was kind of comparing how she did that to like what the bleep do we know what they did for quantum physics she wanted to do for voting, which I thought was cool. And then she said, I understand politics much more now, even if it feels like knives in my organs, which I felt like was a Drewism.
That's a really good Drewism.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah. And then she talks about how she had a hard time being taken seriously when they were making it.
Yeah.
The writer talks about that Angel Get Off the Bus article.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Which they show in the documentary, I believe.
Yeah.
And then she says she used the criticism as a strength, which I also was like, that's so Drew.
Of course she did. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they talk about Flower Films briefly. And she said, we didn't know shit about producing, but that she and Nan were dedicated to learning. And instead of partying out in Hollywood, they were like putting their head in the books, which I thought was cool. She said she's reading Dostoevsky's The Idiot, which I've never read, but she kind of says that she relates to some of the book, which I was like, I don't know it enough.
Yeah, we'll have to look up the plot just for funsies.
Yeah. In this part, she's talking about being an animist, which I had just watched some old Rosie, and she also had talked about being an animist.
I was going to say the only time I've really ever heard that term was in like 98, 99. I think it was even a question in that newsletter that we were both part of that was like a trivia question.
How funny. But she says because she's an animist, she kind of describes this as how she like how it manifests in her life. She said, I'm the girl who thinks the elevator is waiting for me. I feel guilty when I eat a carrot or when I pick a flower. I have that weird, silly sort of brain that just thinks about all that shit and appreciates the beauty of the supermarket aisle. I love trying to find the beauty and reason and give credit to everything around me.
So lovely.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So Alexi asks Drew, have you always been this optimistic? And she said, always. It's the only way I know how to survive. And it doesn't mean that I don't succumb to self-loathing, get morbid or cynical or bad-tempered. There are moments, but they are fleeting. They are like buttons on a gigantic jacket. The jacket is optimistic. Anyone who says they're happy all the time, it's just fucking horseshit. But anyone who says they're dark all the time, it's like, come on. You tell me you never feel joy or the pang of love in your stomach. Don't pull that dark prince shit with me. We are such multi-layered creatures. We are thinking, feeling creatures, and there's no denying the complexities of it.
She still says the dark prince thing all the time. I love that that's such a constant.
So then this last part, Alexi asks if being nice is Drew's secret weapon. And she said she tries not to worry too much about what other people think, but explains, I'm not easy on myself. I fucking beat the living shit out of myself.
Oh, really, Drew? No.
I don't think anyone could actually criticize me as much as I do myself. It's never good enough. There's always something more I could do, something better, smarter, more hardworking, more disciplined. Can you imagine like being Drew and feeling that way?
I know.
Anyway, so she said, I do that enough to myself, but that also doesn't mean that I don't care about other people and how much I want to please. I'm a total people pleaser. It's not so much about the approval I seek, but the act of doing. I love fucking people pleasing. I live for it. This whole thing, I'm just like, yep, I understand this. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say this reminds me of you a little bit.
Yeah. But there we go. That's basically the end of that little article, but it had a lot of fun little gems in there.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to read this part, but can you tell me about the short stories that were mentioned here?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So in addition to this article, they had 2 fictional short stories written about Drew. The first one is by Nick Hornby, who wrote the novel Fever Pitch that the movies were based on.
Yep.
But it tells the story of a fictional adult Drew who didn't get the part in E.T. And she's like this like sad, like kind of broken down angry woman. Yeah. Then the other one is by a Jonathan Lethem. Not familiar with him, but he tells a bunch of really short stories, and each one involves Drew and various other known people, and each one involves Drew and chocolate in some form.
weird.
Yeah, I don't think I bothered transcribing them because it just doesn't really quite feel necessary, but we had to mention that they're there.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
So then we have our second magazine, which is Pop. And this one is fall and winter 2005. So I love that these like encompass the seasons as well. Such a funny coincidence.
Whole year. Because spring, summer, fall, winter. I love it. It's like, were they in cahoots? Like, come on.
It seems like it in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the interview and the fashion direction were done by Katie Grand, and our photography duo for this one are Mert Alas and Marcus Pigott, also known as Mert and Marcus, who also did the wonderful Missoni shoot from 2006.
Very cool. The hair was done by Guido, and the makeup was by, once again, Gucci Westman. About this makeup, she said, I wanted her to look like Elvis because her hair was so dark and it was in black and white. She had a very similar facial structure to Elvis, so I was feeling that.
So cool.
I know. And you know what I love about us going over this right now is there's that Sofia Coppola Priscilla movie right now.
I know. Elvis is very in the ether.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. But again, thank you, Gucci, for giving us that little quote.
I know. And I honestly, I don't know that I ever would have thought of that on my own, but once she said it, there are definitely some photos here that I see exactly what she's talking about.
Yes. And let's get into the photos a little bit.
Oh my God. There's a lot.
Oh my God is right.
So we have 11 if you include the cover, all full page. Like we said, they're all in black and white, as Gucci said. A lot of them have like sort of a wet look, wet hair, dark, heavy makeup. We have some wigs and lingerie going on, cigarettes, Mickey Mouse ears. What else am I missing?
Yeah, I know. There's a lot going on. Two of them have this like sort of androgynous thing going on, which refers back in my mind to that, is it 1991 interview?
Oh, yeah.
That has like that sort of androgynous shot of young Drew. But yeah, these are rad. They're all rad in their own way. The ones in the like kind of bouffant sort of type wig, that kind of feels like, what's the Ellen von Unworth with the blonde wig?
Oh,
German Vogue.
German Vogue. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a similar wig to that, except it's darker. But yeah, and the cover is fantastic. That's where the eye makeup is the darkest, is that cover.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Beautiful.
That glossiness. She almost looks like she's like a bronze statue or something.
Ooh,
on
yeah.
The cover.
I
really
totally
cool.
see that. Oh, okay. Again, go check these photos out, you guys. So some of the outtakes were printed in Visionaire, their number 52 issue in 2007. It's kind of hard to explain what Visionaire is. It's an experimental agency that's been collaborating with artists, influencers, and Fortune 500 companies for over 25 years. And they produce these like public art installations, film. Every year they have an issue, quote unquote. My husband, side note, has collected some of them over the years. Cool. He has a handful of them. And that's where I have that 2009 selfie of Drew where she took it in the mirror. And that John Baldessari like added his art to.
Yes.
That's from a Visionaire. So unfortunately, he doesn't have this one.
Sadly.
I think this one was really expensive because it's like gold-plated Louis Vuitton for the case.
Oh my God.
I know. But it has at least two really beautiful outtakes from this. I mean, beyond stunning.
Oh my God. We need it. We need it for the Drewseum. Whoever has it out there, send it on over.
You know, it's either this or the little heart necklace. We'll probably have to spend about the same money on both.
I think I'd rather have the book.
And we've been lucky enough. There are a couple other outtakes. I don't know where these came from, but she's got like a leather mask in some of these, a little bondagey looking.
Yeah, these are so gorgeous. I should check out other work by these photographers.
Yeah.
They have such a cool vibe to them. I just realized one other one reminds me of one more shoot. Sorry, I have to go back.
Okay.
Blonde curly hair reminds me of the Kevin Aquan makeup.
Oh, from Making Faces. Yeah.
Like the angle even, but of course Drew has like a black wig in that, or maybe it's her actual hair.
Yeah, I don't know.
I almost feel like I need to make 3 side-by-sides.
You do that.
Okay. Here's what Anne couldn't stop blabbering about when the image was only in her head, if only she knew. Okay, so now let's get into the article. So give us your little summary of the article from Pop.
Okay, so again, in another similarity, this is also a very short article. That's part of the reason why we decided to put these together, but it's a good one. And I'm going to just summarize it on the fly. So stay with me if I sound like I'm not prepared. Like we said, the article is done by Katie Grant. So Katie says, "Hey, Drew, what's going on? Like, what are you doing in LA?" And Drew said that's the first week she'd had off in quite a few years. So she was just doing things that she'd been like wanting to do, like cleaning out her closet.
And I was like, oh, I wish I could have been the fly on the wall for cleaning out the closet.
I wish I could have been the like trash man standing there like, we'll take whatever you don't want. But yeah, she says that she's like a workaholic, as we know, and that she had made a promise to herself to take time off. She just finished Lucky You and she was really tired and it was very challenging because of having to sing, which is a big fear of hers. And she does say on one job I was supposed to sing and they told me I was the worst singer they'd ever heard, which of course must be.
Everyone says I love you.
Must be, yeah. So she's like, I had to face my fears and she trained for 5 months on weekends and after work to get this going.
For some reason, that description, 5 months on weekends and after work, I just imagine like somebody who's got like a full-time job and they're like, all right, I'm doing my extra training like on the weekends and after my full-time job.
Kind of how we do this podcast.
True. We've been training for a year and some change on weekends and after work.
Or during work sometimes. Oops.
Yeah.
Okay, so this magazine actually does reference her boyfriend by name, Fabrizio Moretti. And they asked, because he's a drummer of the Strokes, did he play drums along with her while she was singing?
Yeah.
And she said, he helped me a lot. He helped me figure out what notes I could sing for each word so that I could approach each session with my voice coach with a new intelligence. So that was cool.
Yeah, I like that.
The author asked if she sang along to Strokes songs. She says no, that she just stuck to country music because that's what her character in the film sings. And then she said she also listened to a lot of Marilyn Monroe because she loved her singing voice being like beautiful and charismatic and sensual. And it really made her appreciate what an art singing is. And then she compared it to when she was training for Charlie's Angels and she went to see Cirque du Soleil. It was like the same feeling, like watching all of their strength and stamina made her realize their beauty and power. And she'd always run away from the physical because she was much more about the emotional.
Yeah, and I put a little heart by that.
Yeah, you like that one?
I understand.
Yeah, I probably have always been that way up until a few years ago when I really started getting into yoga and working out. And it was suddenly like, whoa, this is weird. This is so like not been part of my life. And now I love it.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yep.
Then this is a theme that's come up so many times when we do these articles. They talk about her feeling unattractive or out of place. And if that was maybe like something that she took into Never Been Kissed, which is, very astute and correct.
Yeah.
And Drew said, whatever world you're in, you can feel really vulnerable, especially if you're out of place, awkward, uncomfortable in your skin, exposed in any way, saying, what's wrong with me? Which she definitely still says.
Yes.
And then this is just a really sad but lovely quote. You're vaguely aware that people have this idea of something that's correct and beautiful and pristine and graceful, but you're something other. Oh, Drew, you're those things in a different way.
Yep.
The author asks if it was especially difficult as a kid because like it's hard enough just to be a regular kid, let alone, making ET, etc.
Yeah.
And Drew said, as her therapist says, shit slides downstream. When you're a kid, you just feel like shit. Facing this weird little battlefield you have to walk through in order to just earn your space. But that's cool because we all have to go through it. She's asked if she has any regrets about that time in her life. And she says, no. Like, it's hard not to have regrets because you want to be like this unscarred, beautiful, pristine, virginal, perfect being that has no emotional scars.
I love this whole thing.
I know. But then she says your baggage is what makes you who you are. You have to embrace it. Otherwise, you end up kicking and screaming about something you can't change. And that's making me laugh because we just referenced her dad being like, kick the bag. And she's like, you can't, Dad. And they're talking about, you know, she's done all these things in her life. She's only just turned 30, just like you mentioned in the other article.
Yep.
And it like, is that amazing? And she says it is, but she's always hard on herself, of course. She feels it's not enough. She wants to do more. It's very similar themes going on here.
Yep.
But this is cool. She said for the first time in her life, she's taking time off. So she can look around and see what direction she wants to go in. And then she says she has a little Post-it on her window that says, stop and smell the roses, because she's not very good at doing that. And that made me think of her meditation closet with all the Post-its on it that she currently has.
Okay. It's so funny because I was thinking about Drew's handwriting. And how I can because we know it so well, I can imagine the writing saying stop and smell the roses in her handwriting.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even picturing that amazing closet, which is my computer's desktop.
That you look at every day.
Yes. She's not just saying that. I'm sure she really did have a Post-it that says stop and smell the roses.
100%.
So great.
Then she's asked if she's going on holiday, and she says that her friend's going to Greece, but she'll probably end up on the deck drinking white wine and reading. And then she says she loves to explore, so she'll go off and just do something by herself alone, which is so cool. And then, of course, she's asked if that independence is something that she learned as she got older or what. She said that when she was growing up, kids that had a strong family unit seemed to be more independent because they knew they could leave the nest and then come back and it would still be there.
Mm-hmm.
But she always felt scattered. So she was intimidating about going places on her own. And of course, she had her own apartment when she was 14, has been living on her own ever since. But it wasn't until her 20s that she would travel by herself, because that's sort of when she decided if she wanted to do something, she was just going to go do it instead of waiting for someone else, which feels very ever after.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then she said she loves eating alone and going to the movies by herself too. And I feel like she still talks about eating alone a lot. It's something she really likes to do.
Yeah.
I kind of like it too, especially if I have something to read. I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
She's asked if she remembers the first film she saw on her own. And she says not the movie itself, but she remembers the experience. She was in New York. She was about 11. She walked to the theater, sat down, and had a cigarette while she watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You heard that right. She had a cigarette in the theater.
Oh my God, I know. Indoors, right?
It was okay then somehow.
And the interviewer says, "Oh, you were so wild." And Drew says, "I know, and I loved it." And then she's like, "I think every kid wanted to be you growing up." And Drew said, "That's funny because I was a prime example of what not to be."
Yeah, I thought that was great.
But the interviewer said, when you're young, you feel like you only have a few years to be wild. And Drew said, yeah, but it led her to have a solid work ethic because, and she said this a lot, even though that there was this time where people thought she wasn't professional, that really bothered her, because no matter what was going on in her personal life, it didn't affect her work. She still always was there and dependable for work.
Mm-hmm.
The interviewer kind of points out that a lot of people who have addictions or go to rehab, they have to completely abstain afterward and be opposite of who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew said she doesn't like the all or nothing. She tries to find the happy medium. She loves working out and sweating and then having a beer. I like that. She says, I love learning and laughing, exercising, then doing things you're not supposed to. I love going to rock shows and slamming a shot down and screaming at the top of my lungs. That is so much fun. Halloween is my favorite holiday because you get to be the freak that you really are and celebrate it. We should have more days like that. But then I also like the diligent business, the work ethic, turning up on time, and being professional.
Yeah, I loved that whole thing because it was just the dichotomies of Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. And then they point out hey, the public perception of you changed at one point from this out of control girl to this A-list celebrity who has everything under control. Uh-huh. And how did that happen? And Drew says, oh, I know exactly how that happened. She realized she loved her job. She appreciated it. She didn't want to see those things taken away from her. Nobody was calling her for roles. And she knew she had to take on responsibility and make the films herself that were more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, well, what films were we talking about? And she's like, Amy Fisher, Poison Ivy. She realized she wasn't a little girl anymore and needed to do more mature roles. And then she realized how much she loved the whole process of this making movies, casting, writing, directing, all of it. And she wanted to be a part of it. And that, of course, she set up Flower Films.
Ta-da.
Yeah, her and Nancy hit the books and laid low, as you mentioned in your article.
Yeah. I might have pulled hit the books from here.
Oh, maybe. That's so funny. But they have said that a lot.
Yes.
And like it felt like they were at college. They worked on Scream. They met Adam Sandler and liked how he was doing his company. And then, of course, they got to do Never Been Kissed. And then Charlie's Angels right afterward. She said that was really intimidating, but we were like, we're going to fucking do this and have fun with it.
Absolutely.
And then, as we mentioned in our Donnie Darko episode, which you can go back a couple episodes and listen to, after they did Charlie's Angels and they had a blast and all that, they were like, okay, let's go do something that's small and not in the public eye, which is so fun that they had that range. I love that.
Yep.
The interviewer says that she was probably more nervous about meeting Drew than most people because she was such a hero of hers. And it was so cool when she turned up with her boyfriend and had, she says, huge love bites, which I'm guessing are hickeys.
That's what I was thinking too.
And says it was the most rock and roll shoot I've done for years. And Drew says, rock and roll. I feel like I'm just the biggest dork. I've got these big old boobs. I feel like I'm always about to fall over. I always say the wrong thing at the wrong time, or I'm way too excited about things when everyone else is playing it cool. So it's so funny to hear that. I so do not see myself that way. And that feels like a total constant. Like she definitely still talks about herself in that way as well.
Yep, she does. And I think she genuinely feels it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. The interviewer says like it was just such a great shoot. Fab was next door gambling. So who knows where they did this. They were all drinking pink champagne. And anyway, Drew said that Fab is the rock and roll one. And she's more like, I have to be professional. And he'll go, fuck it, babe, have some fun. But she said like when he was training her with singing, he worked really hard with her. He's got like the balance of having fun and still being diligent.
Here we go.
And then this is cute. She's asked, were you a fan of his? And she said, yeah, it's sort of embarrassing. I was such a dumbass when I met him. So she said she went up to him and was overly enthusiastic, like always. And it was just going on about loving the band and the music and how they're so important. And inside her head, she was saying, you blew it big time. Typical me, typical overdo it girl. So she walked away all embarrassed and watched him play. And she's just like, oh my God, even though that was so embarrassing, I got to go find him. And she said something went right because they've been together ever since. And she loves him so much. And had she not been brave enough to make a fool out of herself or take a risk, she wouldn't have that in her life. So fuck embarrassment.
I love that.
I know. It's so good. And then she's like, did he ask you out on a formal date? And Drew said, no, fuck that. I asked him out. I called him. Fearless Drew.
I like this next thing.
She's asked what her favorite color is. And she said, the rainbow. Okay. That's like so extremely lame, but I just love all colors.
I feel like that answer feels like that's what like an impersonator of Drew would say.
You're so right. Like a parody of her would say that.
Yeah.
It's very true. And she said Fab would have a field day teasing her about that, but it's true. And she said she's staring at a rainbow that she painted right then. And the lady says, on your wall? And she says, no, I painted it on my tape recorder, actually. So there you go.
But yeah, these are both fun articles. I love that it spans a year. It's kind of an interesting little like drop into her life with Fab.
Yeah. And we have been, really drawn to articles from mostly the 90s. So we sort of like told ourselves we needed to get out of that box and try something a little more recent. But of course, this is not recent at all.
Only
like
19 years old.
Yeah. But still, we're getting there. We're coming forward in time.
This is recent for us, but but also, I think it was like seeing these images. I think you were just reviewing 2005 again, and you're like, you know what? These are rad.
Yeah.
This is a really good thing to put together, and I am glad we did.
Me too. And hopefully the rest of you are as well. If you did like that, you guys know what to do. You could go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts that we'll read back on the air. I actually haven't checked in a while. I wonder if we have any new ones.
Ooh.
Maybe somebody should go do it before I even look. And then go follow us on Instagram at How Do You Drew Pod, where we post pictures related to the episodes. We do little reels with video components to go along with what we talk about. Mm-hmm. And you can also follow us at Drewsium for other stuff like your opinions on rankings of Drew's films.
You can get really into all the little niche stuff that we get into over there. Also, make sure to visit our website at howdoyoudrew.com, hosted on the OG The Drewseum. Make sure you follow us or subscribe as a patron on Patreon/howdoyoudrew. And also send us listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com. And my question to take us out today is, what's your third favorite color?
So pink's my favorite. Gold is second.
Yep.
Probably.
I don't know why I do this to you.
A yellow? I don't know. Like pale. I like pastels. Like pale. Pretty much any pale color I'm kind of into.
Okay.
That's my vibe.
So my first two, blue and green, are vying for my attention all the time now.
Yeah.
And I'm actually starting to like orange, oddly enough.
Yeah, I have come around a little bit on. In fact, right now my nails are orange, which is so weird, but it has to be like a certain shade.
Yeah, for me, it's like dark, almost like, well, not brick, because brick is red, like burnt orange.
Yeah.
Like I'm into that. It's not just because it's fall, but I'm feeling burnt orange as my third favorite color right now.
Oh, well, you're getting your nails done tomorrow, so I'm excited to see what you end up doing.
Yeah, and we'll talk about why I'm getting all fancy next week.
Oh, that's a good tease.
All right, everyone.
You definitely want to come back.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you.
Thank you.